If you are reducing your sugar intake, do you believe that honey and pure maple syrup are good options, or are those also going to create problematic spikes in blood sugar? Before diving into the main content of the video, we'd like to offer you a completely free gift: 7-day vegan meal plan, jam-packed with over 30 tantalizing plant-based recipes. Embrace a plant-based diet rich in whole grains, fruits, vegetables, and legumes to naturally support blood sugar levels. This is a gift that our team sincerely appreciates your support for, and we wish you truly enjoyable meals. Please click on the link below the video's comments section to download the free ebook and start your new culinary journey. The bottom line is that substituting one source of sugar for another does not constitute reducing sugar intake. Both honey and maple syrup are primarily liquid vehicles for simple sugars and disaccharide sugars. Other compounds and flavoring agents come along for the ride, but these are still sugar syrups consisting of glucose, fructose, and sucrose that blend depending upon the product and its natural source. Because of the way these products are consumed and somewhat because of the varieties in the blends of sugars, they might not enter the bloodstream quite as rapidly as putting a teaspoon of sucrose crystals, table sugar, into your coffee in the morning, but the sugar does still enter the bloodstream and does still elicit hormonal and other physiological responses. In some people with some conditions, under some circumstances, this might mean a reduction in spiking of the blood glucose level, but if you are still consuming about the same level of sugars and only shifting a little more to fructose over glucose in direct inputs to your bloodstream, you really are not improving things much. Reduction in sugar intake means a reduction in all sugars from all sources. It's not easy because those simple sugars, in particular, really do have an impact on our brains and make us feel good for a while. So much so that we want to repeat the feeling and we continue to dose. We get a real taste for sugar and are loath to do without it. The good news is we can lose that sweet tooth in a fairly short period of time, not by substituting one sweetener for another, but by stopping the use of sweeteners and reaching for other flavor sensations that satisfy us in other ways and give our brains something novel to deal with. For me, it was going black for my coffee and diving into really good coffee. I was unaware of all the flavors really good coffee could deliver until I eliminated the additives, what I now refer to as adulterants, and started picking up higher quality coffees. I eventually ended up getting into home roasting. I haven't put sugar in my home roasted, or other high-end, coffee for more than a decade, coming up on 14 years. That single step of eliminating sugar from my coffee led to a large reduction in daily sugar intake. Next came soda consumption. I have all but quit drinking soda drinks altogether, partaking only rarely throughout the year. I really hate the taste of all artificial sweeteners. Each comes with its own issues, with respect to things like insulin response, gut health, and so on, so I do not consider them adequate substitutes for real sugar for cooking or as food additives. Today, I simply will not use them. To reduce sugar intake from my favorite cola and root beer, I just stopped consuming so much of them. As my purposeful sugar consumption lowered, my desire for sugar decreased dramatically. If you truly want to reduce sugar intake, you have to stop taking in sugars. Substituting one sugar for another is really a dead-end pathway, and using sugar substitutes merely shifts the kinds of issues or problems or deficits you will ultimately experience. Is additional honey good for diabetics? No. Honey will spike your blood sugar just as fast as white sugar. So will maple syrup, unrefined cane sugar, and any other kind of sugar. The only exceptions are sugar alcohols. They don't increase blood sugar, but until you become accustomed to them, they can cause excess gas and diarrhea. Honey is 38% fructose, 32% glucose, and 30% water. By comparison, high fructose corn syrup, HFCS 55, the highest fructose type, is 42% fructose, 34% glucose, and 24% water. Maple syrup is 30% water, and 61% sugar, almost entirely sucrose, table sugar, which is a disaccharide of glucose and fructose. Honey and maple syrup are simply sugar mixed with water. Honey is compositionally almost identical to high fructose corn syrup, actually closer to HFCS 42. Eating them is going to be no different than eating refined sugar or corn syrup. Is maple sugar better for people with diabetes? Maple syrup is 30% water, and 61% sugar, almost entirely sucrose, table sugar, which is a disaccharide of glucose and fructose. Rakesh, the short answer is no. Maple syrup is sugar. For a type 2 diabetic, no sugar is better or good. All sugar is bad. Sugar, and all other carbohydrates you eat, become sugar, glucose, in your blood. When you have high levels of sugar in your blood, you harm your body. You must accept this truth and take care of your body. You only have one. Even though maple syrup does contain some nutrients and antioxidants, it is also very high in sugar. Calorie for calorie, maple syrup is a very poor source of nutrients compared to whole foods like vegetables, fruits and unprocessed animal foods. Replacing refined sugar with pure, quality maple syrup is likely to yield a net health benefit, but adding it to your diet will just make things worse. Maple syrup is a less bad version of sugar, much like coconut sugar. It cannot objectively be labeled healthy. If you consume it, it's best to do so in moderation, as with all sweeteners. In closing, are products with natural sugar, honey, maple syrup, also bad for you? No, not in moderation. The two you mentioned are natural foods, straight from Mother Nature. They have food value, such as minerals, and health-promoting properties such as antioxidant, antibacterial, and anti-inflammatory agents. The thing to remember about honey and maple syrup is that they're more than just sugar. They also come with a package of nutrients that help offset some of the negative aspects of the sugar content. Honey is the life source of bees, keep in mind, so how can it be a bad thing? That doesn't mean that you should eat a jar of honey every day. Too much sugar, even in honey or maple syrup form, is still a bad thing in many respects. But honey and maple syrup in moderation are not bad for you. So this is my take. Sugar on its own or added to food is junk food in itself, but natural foods that naturally contain sugar are health foods, in moderation. Thank you. Please subscribe to the channel to support me so I can be motivated to make more videos sharing useful values.